Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director Event Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Tran. She is the founder and CEO at Stiletto Collective. Hey, Lee, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Lisa.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. We were just hanging out in Austin, which was so fun. And we got to do a Q&A where we talked all about the great work you're doing, whereas now I get to find out about what happens behind the scenes.
Pull the curtain back.
Yes, pull the curtain back. So I'm excited. Well, all right. So Stiletto, your philosophy. Okay, you founded it in 2021. Which is, I have to say, quite a year to be starting something, just coming out of the pandemic, because you must have been working on it during the pandemic to really get things going.
It was always a dream, but there was no plan in place. So it was a little bit, yes, fly by the seat of your pants, decision. And I just kind of went with it and it's been working ever since. But I think that's what made it work, is not having to second guess, just diving in.
Yeah, well, it totally makes sense. Well, what I started to say before, as I'm looking through, I love to do all my snooping, as I say, and your philosophy, or Stiletto's philosophy, which since you're the founder, your philosophy as well, is intrepidity, curiosity, empathy, integrity, and tenacity. So I'm just going to focus on a few of those, but and turn the tables on you. So I want to first bring up intrepidity. Now, I've never heard intrepidity. Like, am I saying it right? I've heard of, like, obviously I've said
Intrepid, yeah.
intrepid, but intrepidity. Okay, I'm saying it the way you guys say it. Now, your description of it on your site, we're elegantly fierce, adventurous, daring, fearless, and it's without deviation from the norm. Progress is not possible. So that is your description. But what I want to ask you is, when have you been intrepid? So it can be about your career, but has to be personally, not something that you've done when it comes to a campaign or anything like that.
So this this philosophy is definitely something I think I was born with. Just, one of my favorite earliest memories of being intrepid is learning how to ride a bike and then just getting on my bike and telling my parents I was just seeing my neighbors or my friends, and then really just seeing how far that bike could take me. I mean, back in the day, there was no, I mean, I didn't even have a map. There was no map app. Um,
Mhm.
and getting lost and then finding my way back and not getting in trouble. And that, that mentality, that fearlessness, I carried with me when I decided, growing up in the suburbs of Texas, to go to school in Boston, Massachusetts. So leaving the comfort of this nice little suburban safe town and going to Back Bay, Boston, and learning transit. I didn't want my parents to come with me on the student tour, anything like that. I just kind of went there and figured it out myself and got lost on the subways and just figured it all out. And then I went to LA and started my career there, not knowing anybody. So
Mhm.
personally, I feel like that is the spirit that I like to see in other people and to be around. And um, that vibe, that way of living your life translates to your work. So I think that fearlessness is, doing things that hadn't ever been done before. And there's could list stuff along my career, but that's how I approach anything that I'm dealt with, work
Yeah.
life, personal life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I totally see that just from having met you and spent some time with you. I can see it as an adult, but did not realize it was starting even when you were a kid on a bike.
Don't tell my parents about the bike part. They still to this day don't really know
We'll,
that.
we'll bleep that as they're watching it. So, all right. So now the other I want to pull at is empathy. Now, in your description, we listen, we connect because you never know someone until you walk in their shoes. Now, Stiletto Collective. So, of course, the whole shoe thing, I get that little connection. I'm sure it was on purpose. But
Yes.
I want to ask you, whose shoes would you most like to walk in?
Okay. So Since Stiletto has started, so the past 3 Women's History Month, we'll ask our female clients, some would argue why just female, but we ask our female clients a few key questions, and one of them is that question. And it's interesting over 3 years, regardless of client, where they're from, I feel like Ruth, um, Supreme Court, she has been a consistent one that appears time and time again. And so I just thought that was really fun to share as a pattern, regardless of the years or what's happening. But I'm going to answer this. It might be polarizing. It's just timely and top of mind for me. But Kamala Harris, no matter if you liked her laugh, her looks, her point of view, her policies, I just keep thinking to have been thrust into the largest public job interview in a role that has yet to break that invisible barrier, proverbial glass ceiling. I couldn't imagine that for myself, that kind of stress.
I
And I
agree.
think about even like a Nikki Haley or a Hillary Clinton. I think about industries and categories. I mean, in our business, Mad Men back in the day, um, it is still, a heavily dominant male-driven world. And I try to think about other industries that still have that male-dominated hierarchy and how hard it must be. So walking in someone else's shoes in that situation at that level, I think would be invaluable. But I also feel like, I mean, Susan B. Anthony, back in the 1800s, she got arrested for voting because she believed that she deserved to vote, walking in her shoes. So for me, it's like really embracing that, how can a woman, um, you know, show her voice. And I think walking in, some of these women's shoes, whether it's a woman just recently or Susan B. Anthony back in the day, I think that would be invaluable.
Yeah, no, and it's funny you say that. I actually came up with this question, and then as I continued my snooping, I saw that you had it with your little that you gave this quiz during Women's History Month, and I was almost like, oh, I'll take the questions from that. But literally, like most of my questions somehow like were similar, so we have like minds.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so I actually was aware that you had that question, but I still asked it. And okay. The final description, tenacity. So now you wrote, we go the extra mile. The more we accomplish, the more we know we're capable of accomplishing anything. So when have you been the most tenacious and what did you accomplish? Again, personally.
Um, being a mother, being a young mother in LA, while also personal, that is a personal achievement for me, but also trying to climb up the Mad Men ladder that I talked about, and trying to be a mother. My mother got to stay home, and she took care of 5 kids, but obviously it's that antithesis. I thought I'd never have kids, and I was just going to be a career woman. And when I had my son, I really wanted to be a good mother and be there and put the same level of proactiveness and what it means to be a good mother as I would in being a good role model to somebody or being a good employee, being a good ad professional. So that is my biggest accomplishment. And I'd like to say that proof is in the pudding. He's a great 25-year-old young man. But yeah, that's my biggest personal tenacious accomplishment. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, totally. And that's even though, like I know you mentioned the for your career, that is a personal accomplishment as well. What I mean in sense of it can be about your career. It just, I don't want it to be, oh, we struggled while you're working on a campaign for this brand and this company. So I think all of that. And I think it's a struggle that a lot of people can relate to, a lot of women can relate to, whether at any age, whether, I talk with different women at older ages that they decided to have children older, and then people like yourself, 20s, and you have your own sets of challenges, depending on what level you're at and what your situation is. So anyway, yes, I totally agree. And your son's getting married soon too, right?
He is. Good memory. Yes, next year, June 1st. So I will not be available leading up to that day, or maybe even recovering after that day. So
Sounds good. Well, that's exciting. So,
that's
all
my that's my PSA if anybody watches this.
right. Okay. What do you mean if anybody watches it? Of course they
Oh,
watch it.
I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. This segment. I'm sure
Everybody,
Alex
don't
watches
leave
all of your other ones.
skip that one. Okay. So, all right, your career. I mean, you've been at so many really huge agencies, BBD&O, McCann Erickson, Gray Advertising, Proof Advertising, before then launching your own ad agency. So, I mean, you've been on the ad side, the agency side, excuse me. So, but talk about when you were first starting out, when you were graduating. And I mean, it sounds like when you're saying you were a young mom and you already knew kind of what you wanted. So, was that the plan in college or even high school, whatever, but I'm more thinking in college as you're graduating, or how did it evolve? How did you get to where you are today?
Yes. So going back earlier, I grew up in the suburbs of Houston, Texas, and I knew I wanted to go out of state and experience something else, but I also knew that I wanted to be in communication. And I think I was first inspired back in high school because of Connie Chung. So it's kind of that notion of if you see her, you can be her. And when I found Emerson College going to the library, they were a great, at that time, small communications performing arts college. And I really thought I would go there and be a print journalism major. Um, so of course, when I got there, I wrote for the school newspaper. I also sold ad space in the college newspaper. And it was that combination, along with my advisor who taught Advertising 101, that she convinced me to take her course. And she was an Irish ad professional, so she was just a hoot. Her class was so enjoyable, and I just fell in love with her teaching the history, the 101 of advertising, and the fact that it's almost even more of a challenge of like, how can you convey singular truths in the most entertaining, authentic way possible in an ad form. So I kind of even felt that was more of a challenge than writing articles. And then obviously if you have money behind it, and even faster way to communicate. So I fell in love with it and decided that's what I wanted to do. Of course, my dad had no idea what any of this was and still doesn't. And I've tried to explain it to him since I was younger, to even owning
Mhm.
my own company now. But yeah, that was my vision, was communication. And McCann had this adage of truth well told. And I remember when I first landed that job there, I was like, yes, that's what I wanted to do, is just tell singular truths the best way possible.
No, that's awesome. And I totally get the dad thing. Although I actually my dad had agency background. So he was the bit money side though, treasurer, but he got that world. So I fell into an ad job before I even graduated college. And so I took it, but I went for broadcasting. I wanted to be a reporter, a producer, journalist, and I did the agency, but then I'm like, no, my true calling. So he was very proud in that gap. And then he's like, what do you do? Like, they would just watch for my name on the credits. Okay. Like they didn't care that there was this package, this piece that I put together that they didn't understand everything that went into it. So, and
Right.
they do. They just, it doesn't matter.
No matter how often you can explain it.
Yes. It's like, okay, whatever, just check out my credit or, sure. Now you have your own agency. So that I'm curious, your dad, was he excited? Was he nervous because it's a big undertaking and you're always the daughter, they're always wanting to protect you. So what was that like?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I was one of five. I grew up in Texas, Asian parents, and there was specific careers they wanted you to pursue. They wanted you to be a doctor, a lawyer, a pharmacist. Uh, when I said journalism, they didn't understand it. Luckily, I had Connie Chung to help explain that. But my dad kept saying, you're not going to make a lot of money unless you get on TV, and you're saying print journalism. And so he was technically, I believe, still right about that from the get-go. But as soon as I told him I wanted to do advertising, I think he didn't really quite understand it. And I mean, even now today, whenever I mention a client, he just thinks it's the big ad that he sees on TV. But he doesn't understand it's the websites and the apps and
Oh,
social
yeah.
media and all this other stuff. But he wasn't quite proud, I think, until honestly I started my own company. Um, I think he quite didn't understand what I did, and just as long as I wasn't writing home and asking for a check, and fending for myself, I think he was okay with whatever it is that I was doing, even though he didn't understand it. But he always wanted us to be successful. And I think when I told him I was starting my own company, he got really nervous. That he understood, maybe not even advertising, but starting my own company, he understood, he got, and he was very, very nervous for that. But after I clocked year one and then year two, and we actually just 2 days ago on November 5th, that was technically the official 3 years. He's just really proud that I have been a successful entrepreneur. So
Very nice. And happy anniversary.
thank you.
And was I pretty cool there? My dog knocked over my light.
Yes.
It's like, uh-huh, uh-huh.
He just wanted his 5 minutes of fame.
We're all good. Oh my gosh. All right. What's, aside from what I just did, what's the hardest challenge you've ever had to get through?
The hardest challenge, eh, I, I think just constantly, just whether it's like to my parents, just feeling the need to just prove yourself that you can be successful. I think, so it's a recurring challenge. I think one that you just put upon yourself, but I think that's the challenge. And so every new potential project, campaign, client, I think everyone just wants it to be successful. Competitors want you to fail. So I think that's the biggest challenge, honestly, is just trying to be successful with everything that you're dealing with. So I know that's a broad answer, not singular, but
Oh no, I actually think it's a perfect answer for, especially I think so many women. I mean, I think it can go with anyone because I do think this, obviously men and they want their fathers to approve and all, like it's just that we're always kids. We're always the kid, the child. It doesn't matter how old we get. And it's that wanting that approval. And then it can carry over to, as you said, to the client, to the this, to the that. It's just, do you feel like it's something, and again, I mean, I'm saying women, just we are women, but something that women tend to maybe feel more so, that, instead of just like, I'm doing it, whatever, I don't care, you like it or you don't like it. And I think I know that's hard for me to say, and I think that's hard for a lot of people. So I'm just curious what your are on that.
um, yeah, I think the hardest thing about I know some people don't like talking about how there's like gender inequality and stuff like that, but I think men are from Mars and women are from Venus. I think there is something common themes that all women share. And I think it is, trying to please and trying to leave a good first impression. And I think that feeling of trying to be the best, be portrayed as the best, I think that is just the hardest challenge to overcome. And I think a lot of it I think how to overcome it is just basically knowing what you really want and kind of putting all that baggage aside. And you don't really need to impress anybody, and you can say no to a lot of things. So I don't know if that answered the question, but
I mean, I get it. It's something we have to just become okay with ourselves or whatever. And I think I have moments of that. I think probably we all do, where it's like we feel good and we trust it and whatever. And then all of a sudden something can happen and those insecurities will pop up. And I think it does stem a lot, starting with parents, and then it can kind of, go from there. So I think it's a constant challenge that you overcome and then go down. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's one of those that's going to be, unless, I mean, I'm not saying for everyone, but I feel like that would be for me. And I think for a lot of people, women and everyone in general, but I do think it's usually more so, I would say a stereotype of a woman. But
Yes.
enough of that topic. Let's get something fun. What do people get wrong about you?
Oh, hands down, how to pronounce my name. It's and I go, yeah, just roll with it. I have fun with it. But I'm always like, it's Lee, and I'll get the comment of, no, Lee would be Lee or Lieegh. And I'm like, no, I'm an adverb. Think of it as like quickly or nicely or casually. But yeah, that's what, and the funny thing is when people who know me consistently get it wrong. That's even the funner one, is I think that mentally they just see the name and they just want to say, lie or something else. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to remember if I ever thought lie. I think I always went right to Lee,
I think you 100% did.
I mean, I could have
You
asked.
probably also did your research.
Yes, I, I Google Translate. No, I didn't. I swear. How do I? I have done that for some names. I didn't for your name. All right, so we're getting back to Stiletto.
Okay.
Your tagline is elevating brands to their finer points. So I want to ask you, who has elevated you or helped to elevate you to your finer points?
Yes. I'm going to give you a personal answer, and my son is going to be a theme, I think. But my son has really been the one who elevated me. Like two big examples I can think of, and there are also many little ones along the way. Um, but you think that you can be an adult or evolve over time and really look at yourself in the mirror and try to really understand who you are, but um, I think kids just see it the way it is. And so, there was a point in time when he asked me if I was happy, and that caused me to really reflect. And long story short is I ended up getting separated from his dad. And of course he didn't say, Mom, get a divorce from dad, but it was just
He
just
could,
him knowing that I wasn't happy and he wanted to elevate my spirits. Um, so, or when, I'm stressed at a job and or a project I couldn't quite figure out how to get our clients' sales up, with what I know how to do, and we just hadn't cracked that code yet. He would just like, we would have he would see that I was stressing, we would have a conversation. And at that time he was younger, maybe junior high, high school, and he was really into skateboarding. And he's like, Mom, you got this. It's like when I try tricks on skateboarding, you keep falling, like all you do is keep falling and you get back up and you keep trying that trick again.
wow.
Yeah. So he just he would have these like moments and insights where I'm like, geez, like you're so smart, or I raised a great kid. But yeah, he's really elevated me to my finer points, I think. Really been a good sounding board, mirror, to me being, yeah, helping me make big decisions. And me not even sometimes even knowing that I needed to.
Mhm. That's great. He sounds like a really special kid. You did a good job, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, that's awesome. Um, I'm curious, is there something that maybe you have a talent for? Maybe it's small and consequential, but others might be surprised to hear that you have that, or it's just something about you, maybe a talent, maybe just something about you that people be surprised to hear.
I haven't done it in a while because it's been a little busy when you own your own company, but I do like to paint. Um, and I
The background
also,
yours?
I'm sorry?
Any of these in the background yours?
No, unfortunately not. And people always think that this was because I stiletto, but I just really love shoes, and actually someone I know painted that for me before I even started stiletto, so that just happened to be perfect. And these are just other artists. No, but I love art. I'm an art history minor, and truth be told, when I was really younger, I wanted to be a painter or work at an art museum, and that definitely was not something my parents thought was a viable job option. Um, Anything in the creative field, I think they would have said no to. But yeah, I love to paint, and I'm of course studying painting. My particular like painting I like to do is paint dreams, my dreams. It sounds a little narcissistic, but recurring dreams too. I find them a little fascinating. So I try to paint them. So
You,
not a lot of
it,
people know that.
well, is it, I'm curious because dreams can be, sometimes I'll be like trying to remember, but so is the painting more abstract or is it very specific to a scene or like, so in terms of the kind of painting you do?
There's been a few different ones. I guess if recurring dreams is sort of a theme that I found interesting that helped me think through the dreams. Some of them are literal and some of them are abstract. A literal one is I've had this recurring dream for a while where uh, going up in a car up a winding hill and the hill gets more narrow and narrow and narrow, and then all of a sudden the road runs out and then there's basically we're just free falling and then I wake up. So that is definitely a literal dream. So painting that was somewhat easy, but it's one that has been almost like the same mountain, same
Mhm.
feeling. Another one is a little different. It's I think it's a I don't know exactly what it is to this day, but it's being on an old ship and then seeing people throw over when ships would get stalled when there wasn't any wind. And then people would kind of throw cargo overboard.
Mhm.
Um, but the recurring dream is people throwing over, this is going to sound a little morbid, horses.
Oh,
And then
I don't
just the
know.
chaos of, of horses. And then oddly enough, it's like, it's an old period. And then all of a sudden this like modern age cowboy will save the day. And then I wake up. So yeah, it's a really weird dream. I can't quite figure out exactly what that means, but
Well, being an Austin girl, I mean, the cowboy kind of makes sense and the horses. I don't know. You're throwing away your lifestyle, the home, the life, the traditions,
oh my goodness, Lisa, do you have a secret degree? Are you a therapist?
But then the cowboy brings it back because you're not
Oh
ready
my God.
to let go of it all.
And now I'm on a ranch.
Yes, and now okay. I think I solved it.
Okay, I think you might have.
Maybe, who knows? All right.
Thank you for that free session.
Uh, makes well the whole cowboy thing and horses, it represents Austin. That's where you're from initially. You left it for a while, you're back. So maybe you have that sort of conflict. I want to leave Austin, but I love Austin.
Think you might have really hit it.
So you'll have to ask Chat GPT and see what they said.
I don't think I've ever asked ChatGPT anything personal.
They
That might,
will know what you'll find because they have all of everything about you is in there.
yeah.
So you ask it and then, you'll see what it says. So anyway, guilty pleasure.
Oh, uh, I, it's a specific type of genre, but I really love to binge. And I just got through with it in October because that's the one time my boyfriend allows me to really, really go crazy. But I love binging horror, terror, frightening shows, genres, movies, TV series. And it's really like it's the bloody ones, it's the exorcism ones, it's the alien ones, it's that. I'm not a true crime binger. I enjoy a nice true crime. It's a little bit too real for me. I like more of the kind of made up horror. But yes, that's my guilty pleasure. And when Halloween rolls around and everybody's got their marathons, mom was like, hey, honey, I can't avoid it. It's just
Yep,
on.
yep, that is true. So you like the gore stuff. I told you in Austin did you for visiting hours? Did you
I
ever?
haven't watched it yet. I need to though.
I don't know if there's anywhere to find it. I don't know. Like it's so old. I watched it randomly and I was like, I have never seen it again. And it was just like there's one scene especially where I was literally out of my seat, jumping out of my seat. I told someone else about this once before too. It seriously is. I mean, it might be cheesy. I don't know, whatever. Like it's been a while, but it was,
I will
I
report back to you. I will watch it.
let me know because I just remember there was not 1 minute where you weren't in suspense. Like they never gave you that break. You know how they always give you a break? Usually it's like, and then this was like the whole time you're at the edge of your seat. So at least
Okay, visiting hours. I will find it.
visiting hours. Okay. All right, so what's your silver lining? Was there a setback that you may have had and that it brought you maybe to something better? You know, you at first it seemed not like a good thing, but then it redirected you, or just got by getting over whatever you did, it sort of made things better.
Hmm. What comes to mind? I don't know if this is well, for me, a a big, dark cloud in my life was kind of going through that tough decision of having been married and going through a separation and divorce. And so I'd hate to say it, but I think my silver lining throughout that time was my work. Uh, I don't know if it was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but it was nice to really kind of dive into it. So work became a great outlet for me just to kind of focus and get my mind off of what was happening in that part of my life. So yeah, I mean, people sometimes hate their job or hate having to deal with something, but I really kind of found work to be that silver lining in that part of my life.
To be able to like throw yourself into that.
Mhm.
Yep, I'm sure it's I mean, I don't want to say it as a distraction, but when you can have a focus on something that's important to you, then it
Yep.
can make other things seem a little less. So, I'm curious as far as if you were to, we've talked about challenges and different things that we've been dealing, that you've been dealing with, but I concurred in some. But just young Lee, I almost said lie, just
I planted that in your brain just to trip you up.
like stop myself. Young Lee, maybe preteen Lee, what advice would you give her?
Uh, I I I'd have to say that I really did learn this around COVID, personally for me. But I think if I could tell my younger self, it's okay to say no. Um, I think when you're really trying to accomplish things, you really feel like you have to just keep going and you have to say yes and you have to just get it done. And um, but I think there is kind of like finding that right balance of just like being able to say no. And it could be that this project isn't for you at that point in time, or you don't really need to be putting in 5 more hours that day. It would be okay. And just kind of knowing just when to say no to yourself or to others. Um, but I have to say, as a mentor or a boss, I never wanted that feeling to be something that somebody else chose or felt like they had to do. I'm sorry, not chose, but felt like they had to do because of the way, you know, how the whole saying of kind of modify yourself to your boss or to your professor or to whatever. I didn't really want younger people, younger talent to feel like they needed to emulate me. So hopefully they always felt like they could say no. I felt like I was insistent on them being able to take vacations, but for me personally, just the way I was raised, I think if I could have just gone back and said, you could have like just passed on that, or yeah, just saying no. It's really hard to do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you just take on different things. You say, okay, and you try to do it, and you just want to please, or you want to just get it done, or, just maybe you miss out on something. We all have FOMO, like, so there's all
Yeah.
different things like that. And yes, I think it's just, you should just be able to like, because then when you say yes, and then you're like the whole time, "Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this." And that's
Yes.
not a way to be. Okay, so last question. Got to give a shout out to Stiletto Collective. What is your favorite pair of shoes?
Um, it's like picking your favorite child, even though I only have one. So that would have been an easy answer. But my favorite, my favorite brand of shoe is a brand called Sidewalk. And it's not spelled like the sidewalk that you walk on, but so I'm plugging them CYDWOQ. But I love their craftsmanship. They're all handmade in the USA. They have a vintage line where they kind of go back and look at the way shoes were made and have that kind of style and aesthetic. And they have modern shoes too, but they're so comfortable and they're just made with high quality. Um, I have a lot of them.
Okay. How about what shoe makes you feel most confident when you wear it?
anything with heels. Um, which is why the company is sort of named Stiletto Collective, a lot of different reasons, but the sort of is, yes, if you knew me, you knew I wore heels, and I definitely felt like I'm 5'2", and when I wore heels, I felt a little more taller, a little more seen. But so yeah, any when I wear flats, I feel like I'm a little kid. Uh, my son's taller than me. I don't feel like people couldn't take me seriously. And it's probably all just in my head. But yeah, any height, any shoe with a kitty heel, three inches, any height.
Do that power feel, like just,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. Okay. Well, Lee, Lie, whatever you want to. Lee, thank you so much. This was awesome getting to know you on this side. There's lots of things that even as much as we talked in Austin, I still learned a lot. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, and thank you for watching. And as I always say, if you have anyone you want me to pull back the curtain on, just let me know who, and I will do my best to get her. So thanks for watching. And again, thanks, Lee.
Thank you.